Father Isaiah Monroe, a black priest in a humble clerical shirt, sits quietly in first class, staring at the Atlanta runway as engines roar to life. Claire Hensley, a stiff senior flight attendant, glides past, her warm smile skipping him, her eyes flashing contempt. She assumes he's out of place, unaware his family owns Pinnacle Airlines. This tiny snub will spiral into her undoing by flight's end, reshaping her fate forever. What happens when prejudice picks the wrong target? Before we dive in, tell us where you're watching from. If you stand for justice, hit like and subscribe for more electrifying tales. 30 minutes into the flight from Atlanta to Seattle, the Boeing 787 hums at 35,000 feet, cutting through wisps of cloud under a fading dusk sky. First class buzzes with the soft clink of glassware and the murmur of privileged chatter as the drink cart rattles down the aisle, its polished steel glinting under recessed lights. Father Isaiah Monroe sits in seat 4B, his broad shoulders relaxed against the leather cushion, his dark eyes tracing the horizon through the oval window. He wears a simple black clerical shirt, the collar crisp, a faint silver cross dangling beneath it, catching the cabin's glow. His hands rest lightly on his lap, fingers weathered from years of service. But there's a quiet strength in his stillness, an unshakable calm that doesn't demand attention, yet somehow commands it. He's parched, his throat dry from a restless night spent counseling a grieving family back in Georgia, and the recycled air only thickens the discomfort. As the cart nears, he shifts slightly, ready to make a small request, nothing more than a basic need in this cocoon of luxury. Claire Hensley pushes the cart with practiced precision, her uniform pristine, navy blazer hugging her slim frame, blonde hair pinned tight in a bun that screams control. She's been with Pinnacle Airlines for 12 years, a senior flight attendant who knows every protocol, every passenger type, every unspoken rule of this airborne hierarchy. To her left, a white businessman in a tailored suit gets a flute of champagne, his curt nod met with her syrupy, "Enjoy, sir." Across the aisle, an older woman in pearls receives a sparkling water with a, "Anything else for you, ma'am?" Claire's smile is a weapon, sharp and selective, wielded only for those she deems worthy. When she reaches Isaiah's row, her gaze skims over him, a flicker of something sour crossing her pale blue eyes. His skin, rich and dark, his attire, modest and unflashy, don't fit her mental checklist of first-class pedigree. She pauses, but only long enough to register her disdain, lips tightening into a thin line as if his presence offends the very air she breathes. Isaiah clears his throat softly, his voice low and steady, carrying the warmth of a man used to soothing troubled souls. "Excuse me, could I have a glass of water, please?" It's polite, unassuming, the kind of request that should blend into the routine hum of service. Claire freezes for a split second, her hand hovering over a stack of plastic cups. Then her head tilts, a practiced gesture of irritation, and her tone snaps out like a whip. "We're busy right now. Wait your turn." The words hit the air hard, clipped and cold, dripping with an edge that says he's less than nothing to her. She doesn't look at him again, doesn't acknowledge the tray of untouched water glasses inches from her fingers, glistening with condensation. Instead, she pivots, pouring another champagne for the suit next to him, her smile snapping back on like a light switch. The businessman sips, oblivious, while the older woman glances at Isaiah, her brow creasing briefly before she buries her nose in a magazine. Isaiah doesn't flinch. He's seen this before, felt the sting of dismissal too many times to count, in diners and stores, in places where his collar should mean something but often doesn't. His jaw tightens, just enough to betray the flicker of frustration beneath his calm, but he keeps his posture steady, hands still folded. Around him, the cabin hums on, passengers sipping their drinks, the clatter of ice against glass a stark contrast to the empty space in front of him. A few heads turn, eyes darting his way, then quickly away, discomfort rippling through the rows, like a stone dropped in still water. No one speaks up. No one challenges her. The silence is complicit, heavy, a blanket of apathy draped over the moment. Isaiah exhales through his nose, a slow, deliberate breath, and reaches into his pocket. For his phone, his fingers move with purpose, tapping out a quick message to his younger sister, Lena Monroe. Chief Operating Officer of Pinnacle Airlines. Same old story, he types, the words simple but loaded, a shorthand they've shared for years. He hits send, the screen glowing faintly in the dim cabin light. Seconds later, the phone vibrates, Lena's reply flashing across the display. "Stay calm. I've got this." Her response is a lifeline, a promise wrapped in steel, and Isaiah feels the tiniest shift in his chest, a spark of reassurance amid the quiet burn of indignity. He slips the phone back into his pocket, leaning his head against the seat, eyes half closed as if resting, though his mind is anything but still. He knows Lena's already moving, her sharp intellect and fiercer will spinning into action 600 miles away in Pinnacle's Seattle headquarters. She's 38, a powerhouse in a pantsuit, the kind of woman who turns boardrooms into battlegrounds and wins every time. If Claire's the match, Lena's the wildfire waiting to roar. Claire, meanwhile, struts back toward the galley, her heels clicking against the carpeted floor, her posture rigid with the smugness of someone who thinks she's asserted her place. She doesn't glance back at Isaiah, doesn't care that he's still sitting there waterless, a silent figure in a sea of indulgence. To her, he's a non-issue, a glitch in her perfectly curated world, dismissed with the flick of her wrist. She brushes past a young couple sipping wine, offering them a refill with a honeyed, "Anything else I can get you?" Her voice is velvet, now all traces of venom erased, reserved for those she deems fit for her attention. The cart clatters as she parks it, her fingers adjusting her blazer, smoothing out invisible wrinkles. She's oblivious to the storm she's just sparked, the dominoes she's knocked over with that single careless refusal. In her mind, she's won a tiny victory, upheld some unspoken order she's clung to for years, a hierarchy where people like Isaiah don't belong in her pristine first-class domain. Isaiah watches her go, his gaze steady, unreadable. He's not here for a fight, not looking to make a scene. But there's a line he won't let her cross unnoticed. The cabin's artificial chill seeps into his bones, the dry air clawing at his throat, but he doesn't ask again. Not yet. He's patient, a man who's weathered worse than this, who stood in pulpits facing down hate with nothing but faith and a steady voice. This isn't about water anymore, not really. It's about the weight of her look, the venom in her tone, the way she's decided he's less before even knowing his name. He shifts in his seat, the leather creaking faintly, and lets his eyes drift back to the window. Outside, the sky darkens, a bruised purple streaking the horizon, mirroring the bruise forming on his pride. He knows what's coming, knows Lena's already pulling strings, but he also knows Claire's not done. She's too entrenched, too blind to the power she's just provoked. The plane drones on, cutting through the night, a metal cocoon carrying its passengers toward Seattle. First class settles back into its rhythm, the clinking glasses and soft laughter resuming as if nothing happened. The businessman next to Isaiah adjusts his tie, muttering about a meeting he's late for, while the woman across the aisle flips her magazine page with a crisp snap. They've already forgotten, or chosen not to see, the slight that unfolded. In their midst, Isaiah's hands rest on his knees, fingers tapping a slow, deliberate rhythm, a silent countdown to something bigger. Claire's arrogance is a ticking bomb and she doesn't even hear it. She thinks she's in control, thinks she's put him in his place, but she's wrong. Dead wrong. The water she denied him is just the beginning, a ripple that'll swell into a tsunami by the time those wheels touch down. She's got no idea who she's dealing with, no clue that the man she's dismissed holds the keys to her entire world. And when that truth hits, it'll be too late for her to run. The Boeing 787 cruises through the night sky, its cabin lights dimmed to a soft amber glow, casting long shadows across the first-class seats. Father Isaiah Monroe sits in 4B, his damp shirt clinging to his chest where orange juice had spilled earlier, a sticky reminder of the indignity he'd brushed off. The air hums with the low drone of engines and the occasional rustle of passengers shifting in their plush seats. But there's a new edge to the atmosphere, a prickling unease that's settled in since Claire Hensley's sharp refusal 30 minutes ago. Isaiah's fingers rest on his phone, the screen dark for now, his mind churning with the familiar ache of being unseen, dismissed yet again. He's not rattled, not yet. But the weight of her scorn lingers. a splinter under his skin he can't quite ignore. Down the aisle, Claire slips into the galley, her movements quick and clipped, like a predator retreating to regroup. The narrow space smells of brewed coffee and sanitizing wipes, a sterile contrast to the luxury beyond the curtain. She leans against the counter, her navy blazer creasing slightly, and locks eyes with Tom Baxter, a burly flight attendant with a buzz cut and a smirk that curls like smoke. Tom's been her shadow for years, a loyal echo to her every gripe, and tonight's no different. Claire's voice drops to a harsh whisper, barely audible over the hum of the plane's systems. "He doesn't belong up here," she hisses, her pale fingers gripping the edge of the counter, knuckles whitening. Some charity case sneaking into first class, probably used stolen miles. Her words drip with venom, painting Isaiah as an intruder in her pristine domain, a blemish on the order she's sworn to uphold. Tom's eyes glint with mischief, his thick neck tilting as he leans closer, voice a low growl. "Guy like that needs a lesson, huh? Show him where he really stands." His grin widens, teeth flashing in the galley's harsh light, and Claire nods, a spark of cruel satisfaction igniting between them. They're a unit now, bound by a shared disdain, their whispers weaving a plot as the plane slices through the clouds. Tom rummages through a drawer, pulling out a small bottle of juice, its cap already loose. "Accidents happen," he mutters, handing it to Claire. She takes it, her lips twitching upward, and they move with silent purpose, a pair of vipers, coiled to strike. Back in first class, Isaiah adjusts his posture, the damp fabric of his shirt chafing against his skin. He's about to reach for his phone again when Claire reappears, her cart rattling softly as she pushes it toward his row. She's all business now, her face a mask of professionalism, but there's a gleam in her eye that betrays her intent. Tom trails behind, casual but watchful, his bulk filling the aisle like a wall. Claire stops beside Isaiah, her hands moving with exaggerated care as she sets a tray on his table. The juice bottle wobbles, then tips, its contents splashing across, his chest in a cold, sticky wave. "Oh, clumsy me," she says, her tone flat, unapologetic, her eyes daring him to react. Tom snickers, a sound like gravel crunching, and steps back, folding his arms as if admiring their work. Isaiah freezes for a heartbeat, the chill of the liquid seeping through his shirt, soaking into his skin. Juice drips onto his lap, staining his dark slacks, a public mark of their petty malice. Around him, passengers stir, a few heads turning, their faces a mix of surprise and discomfort. A woman in a silk blouse gasps softly, then looks away, clutching her wine glass tighter. The businessman beside Isaiah mutters something under his breath, his fingers pausing on his laptop. But no one speaks up. No one challenges the scene unfolding before them. The cabin's silence is a heavy thing, thick with cowardice, and Isaiah feels it press against his ribs. He grabs a napkin from the tray, wiping at the mess with slow, deliberate strokes, his face a mask of calm. Inside, though, an ember of anger flickers, tempered by years of restraint. Claire watches him, her smirk barely concealed, a predator savoring the flinch of her prey. "Guess you'll need to dry off," she says, her voice laced with mock concern, then pushes the cart onward, leaving the tray askew. Tom lingers a moment longer, his stare a challenge, daring Isaiah to push back. But Isaiah doesn't rise to it. He finishes wiping his chest, the napkin now a sodden wad in his hand, and pulls out his phone instead. His fingers move swiftly, typing a new message to Lena. "They're escalating," he writes, the words stark against the glowing screen. He attaches a quick photo of his soaked shirt, the orange stain vivid against the black fabric, and hits send. The reply comes almost instantly, Lena's voice cutting through the distance. "Evidence. Now." Her command is sharp, a general rallying her troops, and Isaiah nods to himself, slipping the phone back into his pocket. In the galley, Claire leans against the counter again, her posture relaxed now, victorious. She brushes a stray hair from her forehead, her fingers trembling slightly with the thrill of it all. "That'll shut him up," she murmurs, and Tom chuckles, cracking his knuckles with a pop. "Next time he'll think twice before asking for anything," he says, his voice a rumble of agreement. They're smug, certain they've won this round, their little conspiracy a perfect jab at the man they've pegged as an outsider. Claire adjusts her bun, smoothing it with a flick of her wrist, and glances at her reflection in a steel panel. She sees power there. Control. A woman who's put a trespasser in his place. She's got no idea she's just lit a match in a room full of gasoline. No clue that Isaiah's quiet resolve is a force she can't fathom. Isaiah sits back, the dampness of his shirt a constant irritation, but his mind is clear, focused. He knows Lena's already working, knows she's pulling levers he can't see from 35,000 feet. He's not here to brawl with Claire, or Tom, not yet. He's gathering pieces, building a case, letting them dig their own pit. The juice stain is more than a mess now, it's proof, a tangible mark of their spite he'll wield when the time's right. Around him, the cabin settles, passengers retreating into their own bubbles, the incident fading from their minds like a bad dream. But Isaiah doesn't forget. His fingers tap lightly on his knee, a rhythm of patience, of waiting. Claire thinks she's in charge, thinks she's humiliated him into silence. She's wrong. She's just handed him the first weapon in a war she doesn't know she's fighting, and when it ends, she'll be the one drowning in the wreckage. Hey folks, what do you think? Comment number 1 if you've ever seen someone judged unfairly like Isaiah and wanted to scream at the injustice. Drop a like if you're rooting for him to turn the tables on Claire's smug little game. Subscribe if you're ready to see this battle explode in the skies. Has prejudice ever backfired on someone you know? Tell us below. Now here's the kicker. What happens when Claire realizes her lesson just woke a sleeping giant? Stick around to find out. The Boeing 787 hums through the night, its cabin bathed in a muted golden glow as the altitude settles at 37,000 feet. First class buzzes faintly with the clatter of glassware and the soft rustle of expensive fabrics. But the air around Father Isaiah Monroe feels thicker now, charged with the aftermath of Claire Hensley's petty sabotage. His clerical shirt clings to his chest, the orange juice stain a splotchy insult drying into the fabric, its faint citrus tang mingling with the recycled air. He sits in 4B, posture steady, his broad hands resting on his knees, but his eyes are sharp, scanning the aisle with the focus of a man who's learned to watch his back. The dampness irritates his skin, a constant reminder of the galley's whispered plot, yet he keeps his calm, a rock in a stream of privilege that flows around him unperturbed. Isaiah shifts slightly, reaching into his pocket for his phone, its weight a quiet comfort against his thigh. He's done waiting passively. With a flick of his thumb, he opens the camera app, angling the device discreetly toward the aisle. The lens catches the next drink service as Claire rolls the cart back into view, her navy blazer crisp, her movements polished but brittle, like glass about to crack. She stops at the row ahead, pouring a sparkling water for a white woman in a cashmere sweater, her voice dripping with honeyed deference. "Here you go, ma'am. Anything else?" The woman smiles, oblivious, sipping as Claire pivots to the businessman beside Isaiah. "Another champagne, sir?" she offers, her smile a tight crescent, her hands steady as she fills his flute. Then she reaches Isaiah's seat, her gaze sliding over him like he's a smudge on her perfect tableau. She doesn't pause, doesn't offer, just pushes the cart forward, the water glasses on her tray glinting mockingly in the overhead light. Isaiah's finger hovers over the record button, capturing every second of her deliberate skip. The footage is crisp, undeniable. Her dismissal laid bare in silent pixels. He stops the recording as she disappears down the aisle, her heels clicking a triumphant rhythm, and uploads the clip to Lena with a quick tap. "Second strike," he types. His, message curt, a flare sent up to his sister's war room in Seattle. The phone vibrates almost instantly, Lena's reply flashing across the screen. "Got it. Calling the captain now." Isaiah exhales, a slow breath that steadies him, and slips the device back into his pocket. He knows Lena's already dialing, her voice cutting through the chain of command with the precision of a blade. She's 600 miles away, but her reach is long and Claire's about to feel it. Minutes tick by, the cabin settling into a deceptive calm, passengers sipping their drinks, the hum of conversation a dull backdrop. Then the intercom crackles to life, Captain Ellis's voice booming through the speakers, steady but edged with authority. "This is your captain, Claire Hensley. Serve passenger 4B immediately. No delays." The words hit the air like a gavel, sharp and final, slicing through the first-class bubble. Heads turn, eyes darting toward Isaiah, then to the galley where Claire's silhouette stiffens behind the curtain. A murmur ripples through the rows, a mix of curiosity and unease, as the businessman beside Isaiah shifts awkwardly, his champagne flute clinking against his tray. The woman in cashmere glances over, her lips parting slightly, but she says nothing, her silence a familiar retreat. Claire emerges from the galley, her face a mask of barely contained fury, her bun taut against her scalp, as if holding her together. Her heels strike the carpet with force, each step a small explosion, and she stops beside Isaiah's seat, her cart rattling faintly from the jolt. She grabs a water glass from the tray, her fingers trembling with suppressed rage, and slams it onto his tray table with a thud that echoes in the quiet cabin. The water sloshes, a few drops splashing onto the stained shirt she'd already marked, but she doesn't care. Her lips part, and under her breath so low only Isaiah catches it, she mutters, "Enjoy it, boy." The slur slips out, a venomous barb wrapped in a whisper, her eyes flashing with defiance as she dares him to react. Isaiah doesn't flinch. He meets her gaze, his dark eyes steady, unyielding, a wall she can't breach. He lifts the glass with deliberate calm, his fingers wrapping around it, and takes a slow sip, the cool liquid soothing his parched throat. The taste is victory, small but sharp, and he sets the glass back down with a soft clink, never breaking eye contact. Claire's jaw tightens, her mask slipping just enough to reveal the storm beneath, but she turns on her heel, storming back, toward the galley, her cart wobbling as she goes. Around him, the cabin stirs, a few passengers exchanging glances, their discomfort palpable. A young man in a hoodie across the aisle lets out a faint cheer, a quick, "Yeah, man," that cuts through the tension, and an older couple nods approvingly, their murmurs of support a fragile lifeline. Isaiah feels a flicker of triumph, a sense that he's turned the tide, that justice has peeked through the cracks of this airborne hierarchy. The businessman beside him clears his throat, shifting in his seat, his laptop snapping shut with a click. "About time," he mutters, sipping his champagne, a grudging nod to the moment. The woman in cashmere adjusts her sweater, her eyes flicking to Isaiah with something like respect before darting away. The cabin settles again, the intercom silent, the hum of the engines reclaiming the space. Isaiah leans back, the damp shirt still clinging to his chest, but the water glass sits full and proud on his tray, a tiny trophy in a war he's only begun to fight. He thinks it's over, thinks he's won this round, that Claire's been put in her place. The cheers, the nods, the captain's command, they all feel like a victory. A crack in her armor he's pried open with patience and proof. His shoulders relax, just a fraction, the tension easing as he lets himself believe the worst is behind him. But Claire doesn't see it that way. In the galley she stands rigid, her hands gripping the counter so hard her knuckles bleach white, her breath coming in short, furious bursts. Tom Baxter lounges nearby, picking at a thumbnail, his smirk gone, replaced by a scowl. "Captain's gone soft," he grumbles, cracking his neck with a pop. Claire doesn't respond at first, her mind racing, replaying the intercom's sting, the humiliation of being called out in front of everyone. She'd followed orders, sure, but that slur, that whispered jab was her defiance, her way of clawing back control. She'd seen Isaiah's calm, seen him sip that water like he'd won, and it burns her, a fire she can't douse. He thinks he's smart, she mutters, her voice a low hiss, her eyes narrowing to slits. Thinks he can play me. Tom straightens, his bulk filling the galley's tight space, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial rumble. "We're not done yet. Claire, he's not getting off that easy." She nods, slow and deliberate, her mind already spinning a new plan, something darker, sharper than a spilled drink or a skipped service. The captain's order was a setback, not a defeat, and she's not the type to slink away. She adjusts her blazer, smoothing it with a flick of her wrist, her composure snapping back like a shield. Isaiah might think he's won, might think the cabin's whispers mean he's safe, but he's wrong. Claire's resentment festers, a coiled snake ready to strike, and she's already plotting her next move, one that'll make a glass of water feel like a mercy he'll beg for. Isaiah sits back, oblivious to the storm brewing behind the curtain, the water glass a small victory he clings to. The plane drones on, cutting through the night, and he lets himself breathe, lets himself hope. But hope's a fragile thing at 37,000 feet, and Claire's not finished. Not by a long shot. The Boeing 787 slices through the night sky, its cabin lights casting a faint amber sheen over the first-class seats, now hushed under the weight of the earlier showdown. Father Isaiah Monroe sits in 4B, his clerical shirt still damp with juice stains and water splashes, a patchwork of indignities he's endured in the last hour. The glass of water Claire Hensley slammed onto his tray sits half empty, a hard-won prize that feels like a fragile shield against the storm he senses brewing. His broad shoulders rest against the leather seat, his hands folded in his lap, but his dark eyes flicker with quiet vigilance, tracing the aisle where Claire vanished minutes ago. The captain's command echoes in his mind, a brief flare of justice that settled the cabin into an uneasy calm, but Isaiah knows better than to trust it. He's faced too many battles to believe a single victory ends the war. In the galley, Claire stands rigid, her navy blazer creased from gripping the counter, her blonde bun taut against her scalp like a crown of control she's desperate to reclaim. Her pale blue eyes burn with a fury she can barely contain, her breath sharp and shallow as she replays the intercom's sting, the captain's voice stripping her authority bare in front of everyone. That forced water delivery, that muttered slur, it wasn't enough to soothe the wound Isaiah's calm defiance carved into her pride. Tom Baxter slouches nearby, his burly frame dwarfing the tight space, his buzz cut catching the galley's harsh light. He cracks his knuckles, a slow, deliberate pop, and mutters, "We can't let him walk away grinning like that." Claire's lips twitch, a ghost of a smirk, and she nods, her mind already spinning a darker web, one that'll bury Isaiah deeper than a spilled drink ever could. She straightens, smoothing her blazer with a flick of her wrist, and leans closer, to Tom, her voice a low hiss that cuts through the hum of the plane's systems. "He's a problem. We need something big, something that sticks." Tom's eyes glint, his smirk returning, wider now, a predator scenting blood. "Security, concern," he says, his tone casual but loaded, like he's tossing a grenade into the mix. "Say he threatened you. Guy like that, who's gonna argue?" Claire pauses, then nods, slow and deliberate, her mind latching onto the idea like a lifeline. It's perfect, a lie with teeth, one that'll shift the game from petty jabs to a full-on assault. She glances at the galley phone, then at Tom, her decision hardening. "Do it," she whispers, and he moves with purpose, slipping out to whisper to Vince, the co-pilot, a lean man with a shaved head and a history of turning, a blind eye to their games. Minutes later, Vince strides into the galley, his flight jacket rustling, his jaw set in a grim line. He's one of them, a cog in their quiet machine of bias, and he doesn't hesitate. "I'll lock down the forward bathroom," he says, his voice a low rumble. "Make him squirm." Claire's eyes flash with approval and Tom chuckles, a sound like gravel grinding. They've got a plan now, a three-pronged strike to tighten the noose around Isaiah, and they're savoring every second of it. Vince heads back to the cockpit, his fingers tapping a quick code into the panel, sealing the first-class bathroom with a soft click that reverberates through the cabin. Claire watches from the galley curtain, her smirk blooming into something cruel, a queen reclaiming her throne. Isaiah shifts in his seat, the water he'd sipped settling uneasily in his stomach, the pressure building after hours in the air. He glances toward the bathroom, its occupied sign glowing red despite no one inside, a silent taunt he doesn't yet understand. He waits, patient at first, assuming a delay, but 10 minutes stretch into 20, then 30, and the discomfort grows, a dull ache that gnaws at his focus. Around him, passengers sip their drinks, oblivious, the businessman beside him tapping away on his laptop, the woman in cashmere flipping through her magazine with a faint crinkle. A few eyes dart his way, sensing something off, but no one speaks, their silence a wall he's grown too familiar with. He presses his lips together, a flicker of suspicion igniting. and reaches for his phone, typing a quick message to Lena. "They're framing me," he writes, his fingers steady despite the growing unease. Her reply comes fast, a lifeline in the chaos. "Hold tight, legal's on it." Back in the galley, Claire takes the next step, her voice steady as she picks up the phone and dials the cockpit. "Vince, it's me," she says, her tone clipped, professional, but laced with intent. "Passenger in 4B got aggressive when I served him, said he'd make me regret it. I'm worried." It's a lie spun from thin air, but Vince doesn't blink. "Noted," he replies, his voice flat, and hangs up, logging the incident in the flight report, a digital noose, tightening around Isaiah's neck. Claire sets the receiver down, her hands trembling slightly with adrenaline, and glances at Tom. "He's done," she mutters, and Tom nods, his smirk a mirror to hers. They think they've got him cornered, think this fabricated threat will bury him when they land, a perfect escalation from juice stains to handcuffs. Isaiah feels the shift, the air growing heavier around him, though he can't pinpoint why. The bathroom sign stays red, an hour passing now, his discomfort sharpening into a quiet agony he forces himself to endure. He shifts again, his legs cramping in the tight space, but he keeps his face neutral, his hands folded, refusing to give them the satisfaction of a reaction. The young man in the hoodie across the aisle notices, his brow furrowing, and leans over. "Hey man, that's messed up, you okay?" Isaiah nods, a faint smile tugging at his lips, grateful for the gesture. But he doesn't speak, doesn't want to draw more eyes. Others glance his way, a few whispering, their discomfort growing, but it's a weak flicker against the tide of apathy. The businessman beside him grumbles, "Should have fixed that by now," but buries himself in his screen, unwilling to wade into the fray. Claire watches from the galley, her smirk widening as she sees Isaiah squirm, subtle but enough to feed her spite. She thinks she's untouchable now, thinks this security concern will land him in a holding cell when they touch down in Seattle, his calm defiance crushed under the weight of her lie. She adjusts her blazer again, her posture relaxing, a predator savoring the kill. Tom leans against the counter, cracking his neck with a loud pop, his eyes gleaming with anticipation. "Cops will eat him alive," he mutters, and Claire nods, her mind already picturing the scene. Isaiah cuffed and humiliated, her victory complete. They've escalated from petty to perilous, and she's drunk on the power of it, blind to the storm she's stoking. Isaiah clenches his jaw, the ache in his body a dull roar now, but his spirit holds firm. He knows Lena's working, knows she's got lawyers and evidence in motion, but he also knows Claire's not done. This isn't about water anymore, not about a tray table or a bathroom lock. It's about her need to break him, to prove he doesn't belong, and she's pulling every lever she's got. He texts Lena again, his fingers swift despite the stiffness creeping into them. "They've locked me out. It's worse." Her reply is instant, a vow in 4 words. "They'll pay for this." He slips the phone back, leaning his head against the seat, eyes half closed, conserving his strength. He's trapped, physically and now legally, but he's not broken. Not yet. Claire thinks she's got the upper hand, thinks her lie's a checkmate. She's wrong. Her power's just begun to flex, but so is his, and the real fight's only getting started. The Boeing 787 cruises at 37,000 feet. Its cabin lights dimmed to a flickering amber, casting jagged shadows across the first-class seats as turbulence jostles the plane through patchy clouds. Father Isaiah Monroe sits in 4B, his clerical shirt a patchwork of dried juice and faint water stains, his body stiff from hours of forced stillness. The forward bathroom's occupied sign glows red, a cruel joke locking him in discomfort, a throbbing ache pulsing through his lower back. Claire Hensley's fabricated security concern hums in the background, a silent threat he feels tightening around him, but his dark eyes remain steady, glinting with a resolve forged in decades of facing down hate. The cabin's recycled, air tastes stale, thick with the scent of champagne and unspoken tension, and Isaiah knows this isn't over, knows Claire's venom runs deeper than a locked door. Down the aisle, a young flight attendant, Mia Torres, moves with quiet purpose, her dark ponytail swaying as she pushes a cart of snacks toward first class. She's new, Barely 6 months on the job. Her brown eyes sharp with an empathy Claire's never shown. She'd watched the earlier scenes unfold, the juice spill, the water denial, the captain's command, and now the bathroom lockout, her stomach twisting each time Claire's smirk flashed. Mia stops a row ahead, handing a packet of pretzels. To the businessman beside Isaiah, her voice soft but clear. "Anything else, sir?" He grunts, waving her off, and she glances at Isaiah, her gaze lingering. She'd seen him endure, seen his calm mask the storm beneath, and something snaps in her, a flicker of defiance against the galley's cruel game. Mia leans closer, her cart shielding her from view, and slips a small bottle of water onto Isaiah's tray, her fingers brushing the edge as she whispers, "I saw everything. This is wrong." Her voice trembles slightly, but her eyes are fierce, a spark of solidarity in the dim light. Isaiah meets her gaze, a faint nod of gratitude softening his stern features, and he tucks the bottle into his lap, concealing it from prying eyes. The cool plastic feels like a lifeline, a small mercy amid the mounting siege, and he murmurs, "Thank you, Mia," catching her name tag in the glow. She smiles, quick and nervous, then pushes the cart forward, her heart pounding with the risk she's just taken. But Claire's watching. From the galley curtain, her pale blue eyes narrow, catching the exchange like a hawk spotting prey. Her navy blazer hugs her rigid frame, her bun a tight knot of control, but her face twists with fury as Mia's betrayal registers. She storms out, heels striking the carpet with a staccato fury, and grabs Mia's arm mid-aisle, yanking her back, with a force that rattles the cart. "You're done!" Claire screams, her voice a shrill blade slicing through the cabin's hum, her finger jabbing at Mia's chest. "Fired! Right now! Get to the galley!" Mia stumbles, her ponytail whipping. As she catches herself, her eyes wide with shock but blazing with defiance. Passengers gasp, heads snapping up, the businessman's laptop clattering shut, the woman in cashmere clutching her pearls with a sharp intake of breath. Isaiah rises, his 6-foot frame unfolding with a quiet power that fills the space, his stained shirt a badge of every slight he's weathered. "Let her go," he says, his voice low and firm, a preacher's command that cuts through Claire's rage. His hands stay at his sides, open, non-threatening, but his presence is a wall she can't ignore. Claire spins, her face a mask of venom, and shoves him back, her palm slamming into his chest with a thud that echoes in the tight cabin. "Sit down, boy," she snaps, the slur spitting out loud this time, raw and unfiltered, a gunshot in the silence. The cabin erupts, a chaotic symphony of shouts and gasps, passengers leaping from their seats, some filming with shaky phones, others shrinking back in horror. The young man in the hoodie across the aisle jumps up, his voice cracking with outrage. "Yo, that's messed up. Back off him." The older couple behind him nods, the husband muttering, "Disgraceful," his wife clutching his arm. But a burly guy in a polo near the front snarls, "She's right, he's trouble." And a woman in a blazer chimes in, "Keep the peace, lady." The divide splits the cabin, a jagged fault line of loyalty and fear, and Isaiah stands at its center, unshaken, his eyes locked on Claire. She staggers back, her breath heaving, her bun fraying as her control unravels. Mia twists free, rubbing her arm, her glare fixed on Claire, a silent vow of resistance. Isaiah steps forward, his voice rising now, steady but thunderous. "You don't get to touch her. Or me. This ends now." Claire flinches, her hands balling into fists, but she's cornered, the cabin's eyes pinning her like a spotlight. Tom Baxter lumbers out from the galley, his bulk a menacing shadow, but he freezes as passengers boo, their phones flashing, capturing every second. Isaiah pulls out his own phone, texting Lena with swift, precise taps. "It's chaos," he writes, his fingers steady despite the adrenaline surging through him. Her reply hits like lightning. "Feds are waiting at Seattle." He pockets the device, his jaw tightening, a soldier braced for the next blow. Claire's rage blinds her, her face flushed red, her voice a shriek as she jabs a finger at Isaiah. "You're finished. You hear me? Finished." She's unhinged now, her mask shattered, every slur and shove a shovel digging her deeper. Tom grabs her arm, his growl low. Ease up, Claire, they're recording. But she shakes him off, her eyes wild, locked on Isaiah like he's the devil she's sworn to banish. Passengers shout over each other, a cacophony of shame on you and leave him alone, clashing with hissed defenses of Claire's authority. The businessman beside Isaiah stands, his voice gruff. Enough. Sit down, all of you. But no one listens, the chaos swelling, a tempest trapped in a metal tube hurtling through the sky. Isaiah holds his ground, his chest rising with slow, deliberate breaths, the water bottle still clutched in his hand, a symbol of the fight he's waging. Mia stands beside him, her small frame trembling but resolute, her defiance a mirror to his own. Claire's screams fade into a ragged pant, her energy spent, but her glare promises more, a venom that won't rest. The cabin's a battlefield, now loyalty split, phones rolling, and Isaiah knows this clash is just the spark. He's pushed back, stood tall, but Claire's not done, not by a long shot. Her rage is a wildfire, and she's ready to burn everything down to bury him. All right, folks, what's your take? Comment number 1 if you think Claire's crossed a line she can't uncross with that shove and slur. Hit like if you're cheering for Isaiah and Mia to take her down. Subscribe if you're hooked on this sky-high showdown and want to see justice soar. Ever had someone's true colors explode like Claire's did here? Spill it below. Now buckle up. Will Claire's next strike ground Isaiah for good? Or is the storm just getting started? Find out soon. The Boeing 787 trembles through turbulent skies, its cabin lights flickering as the aftermath of the mid-flight clash lingers like smoke after a fire. Father Isaiah Monroe stands in 4B, his stained clerical shirt stretched taut across his broad chest, his dark eyes burning with a quiet fury that steadies him amid the chaos. The air buzzes with passenger murmurs, a jagged mix of outrage and unease, phones still glowing from recordings of Claire Hensley's shove and slur. Mia Torres stands nearby, her small frame rigid, her arm bruised where Claire's grip had bitten into her skin, her brown eyes fierce despite the tremor in her hands. Claire herself retreats to the galley, her navy blazer rumpled, her bun unraveling, her face a mask of rage barely held together. The cabin's a powder keg, and Isaiah knows the fuse is still lit. Captain Ellis's voice crackles over the intercom, cutting through the din with a calm that feels forced. This is your captain. Due to an onboard disturbance, we're diverting to Denver for an unscheduled landing. Remain seated. The announcement lands like a stone, silencing the shouts, though whispers ripple through the rows. Isaiah exhales, slow and deliberate, his hands unclenching as he lowers himself back into his seat, the leather creaking under his weight. The young man in the hoodie across the aisle mutters, "They're pinning this on you, man." His voice, thick with frustration, and Isaiah nods, a faint acknowledgement of the truth he feels tightening around him. Claire's security concern looms, a fabricated noose he can't yet see, but he senses its pull. The plane banks sharply, descending, through thick clouds, the Denver skyline emerging as a hazy glow against the night. Passengers shift, adjusting belts, the businessman beside Isaiah snapping his laptop shut with a grunt, the woman in cashmere clutching her purse like a shield. Claire emerges from the galley, her posture stiff, her smirk gone but her eyes glinting, with a cold certainty. Tom Baxter trails her, his burly frame a silent threat, his buzz cut catching the light as he scans the cabin. They don't look at Isaiah, not yet, but he knows they're plotting, knows the diversion's no coincidence. He pulls out his phone, texting Lena with swift taps. Emergency landing in Denver, trouble's not over. Her reply flashes back, a lifeline in the dark. Lawyers en route, stay sharp. The wheels hit the tarmac with a jolt, the plane taxiing to a gate where flashing lights pierce the windows, red and blue strobes signaling trouble. Captain Ellis steps out of the cockpit, a tall man with graying hair and a stern jaw, his flight jacket crisp despite the chaos. He strides toward Isaiah, his voice low but firm. "Sir, we need to investigate Ms. Hensley's report. Please come with me." Isaiah rises, his 6-foot frame steady, and follows, Mia trailing behind, her defiance a quiet echo of his own. Passengers watch, some filming, others whispering. The young man in the hoodie shouting, "This is bull." As security floods the cabin, 2 officers in dark uniforms with faces set like stone. At the gate, Denver Airport security takes over, their badges glinting under harsh fluorescent lights. The lead officer, a wiry man with a buzz cut and a sneer, cuffs Isaiah's wrists, the metal biting into his skin as he snaps, "You're detained pending review. Threatening crew's a federal offense." Isaiah doesn't resist, his voice calm but edged. "It's a lie. Check the footage." The officer snorts, shoving him toward a holding room, a cramped space with gray walls, and a single chair. Mia's pulled aside, her protest sharp but ignored, her ponytail whipping as she's escorted away. Claire watches from the jet bridge, her arms crossed, her smirk creeping back, a predator savoring the trap she's sprung. Hours crawl by in the holding room, the cuffs chafing Isaiah's wrists, the ache in his back flaring from the flight's ordeal. He sits, head bowed, lips moving in silent prayer, his faith a tether against the storm. Then the door swings open, and a woman strides in, her heels clicking with authority. She's Lena's lawyer, Tara Reed, a 40-something powerhouse. In a charcoal suit, her auburn hair pulled back, her green eyes blazing. "They've got nothing," she says, tossing a tablet onto the table, Mia's signed affidavit glowing on the screen. "Witness statement says Claire attacked you, not the other way around." The officer grumbles, but Tara's glare silences him, and minutes later the cuffs click off Isaiah's wrists, red but free. Back at the gate, Tara confronts security, her voice slicing through their excuses. "You detained an innocent man on a baseless claim. Release him now, or I'll have the FAA crawling over this airport by morning." The wiry officer scowls, but his partner, a stocky man with a bald head, nods reluctantly, waving Isaiah through. Mia's released too, her bruise a stark purple against her skin, her eyes meeting Isaiah's with a shared resolve. Claire stands nearby, her smirk faltering as Tara hands her a notice from Pinnacle's legal team, a warning shot across her bow. Isaiah boards a new flight to Seattle, a smaller 737, its cabin half empty, the air fresher, but the tension lingering. He sinks into a window seat, texting Lena. "I'm clear." Her reply is swift, a warning wrapped in steel. They're not done. Isaiah leans back, the new plane climbing into the night, Denver's lights fading below. The seats softer, the crew friendlier, a young attendant offering him water with a genuine smile he accepts with a nod. He sips, the coolness soothing his throat, and lets himself believe the worst is over. The cuffs, the holding room, Claire's lie exposed. It feels like a win. A crack in her armor he's widened with Mia's help and Tara's firepower. His shoulders ease, the ache in his back dulling, and he closes his eyes. The hum of the engine's a lullaby he hasn't heard in hours. He's free, heading to Seattle, the feds waiting to clean up Claire's mess. Victory tastes close, tangible, a balm against the bruises on his spirit. But Claire doesn't see defeat. Back in Denver, she paces the jet bridge, her navy blazer slung over her arm, her bun a frayed mess as she dials Vince, her voice a low hiss. "He's out, but we're not finished," she snaps, her fingers trembling with rage. Vince, still in the cockpit of the grounded 787, grunts, his shaved head gleaming under the panel lights. "What's the play?" he asks, his tone flat but eager. Claire pauses, her mind racing, then smirks, a cruel twist of her lips. "Sabotage, the next leg. Make it stick this time." She hangs up, her breath steadying, her eyes glinting with a vengeance that's only grown sharper. Isaiah's release stings, a slap she won't forgive, and she's already plotting, reaching out to contacts, weaving a net he won't slip through again. On the new flight, Isaiah rests, oblivious to the storm regrouping below. The attendant refills his water, her kindness a stark contrast to Claire's venom, and he nods, grateful, thinking he's dodged the bullet. The plane levels off, cruising toward Seattle, the night sky a blanket of stars outside his window. He texts Lena again, fingers slow now, exhaustion creeping in. "New flight, all good." Her reply is curt, a caution he brushes off. "Watch, you're back." He pockets the phone, leaning his head against the cool glass, the hum of the engines lulling him into a fragile peace. He's escaped, he thinks, outsmarted them with evidence and grit. But freedom's a trap, a fleeting mirage, and Claire's revenge is doubling down. A shadow he can't see stretching toward him, ready to strike harder than ever. The Boeing 737 hums through the night, its cabin lights dim to a soft glow as it cruises at 35,000 feet, slicing through wisps of cloud on its way from Denver to Seattle. Father Isaiah Monroe sits in a window seat near the front, his stained clerical shirt a crumpled testament to the battles he's fought, his broad frame sinking into the cushion with a weariness he can't shake. The new flight feels like a reprieve, its half-empty rows a stark contrast to the chaos of the 787, the air fresher, the crew kinder. His wrists still ache from the cuffs in Denver, red marks fading under his dark skin, but the water bottle in, his hand offered by a smiling attendant, soothes his parched throat. He leans his head against the cool glass, eyes half closed. The drone of the engines a steady pulse that lulls him into a shallow nap, exhaustion pulling him under after hours of unrelenting strain. In the galley, Claire Hensley's shadow looms, though she's not aboard this flight. Her venom has stretched beyond Denver, her voice a hiss over the phone as she'd briefed Vince, the co-pilot from the first plane, now a passenger on this one, seated in the back row. Vince, lean and wiry with a shaved head, slouches in his civilian jacket, his eyes glinting with a quiet menace as he scrolls through texts from Claire. "Plant it," she'd ordered, her words sharp with desperation, and he'd slipped a small bag of white powder into his pocket before boarding, a weapon she'd supplied to bury Isaiah once and for all. Claire's rage burns hotter now, her release in Denver a humiliation she's turned into fuel, and Vince is her willing blade, ready to strike where she can't reach. The plan unfolds an hour into the flight, as turbulence rattles the cabin, the plane shuddering through a pocket of rough air. Vince rises, his movements casual but deliberate, and shuffles toward the overhead bin above Isaiah's seat, his jacket rustling softly. He fumbles with a duffel bag, his fingers deft as he slips the bag of drugs into Isaiah's worn satchel, nestled among a Bible and a few personal items. The powder's a silent accusation, a felony waiting to bloom, and Vince smirks, a quick twist of his lips as he reseats himself, texting Claire from his burner phone. "Done. Cops'll nab him at landing." Her reply flashes back, a single word dripping with triumph. "Perfect." Isaiah stirs, the turbulence jolting him awake, his eyes blinking open to the darkened cabin. The water bottle slips from his hand, rolling under the seat, and he bends to retrieve it, oblivious to the poison now tucked above him. The plane steadies, the hum returning, and he settles back, rubbing his neck, the ache in his body, a dull roar he's learned to ignore. Around him, passengers doze or tap at screens, the young attendant bustling with a tray of snacks, her ponytail swaying as she moves. The calm feels deceptive, a thin veneer over the storm he senses but can't name, and he shifts, uneasy, his instincts prickling like static on his skin. Claire's next move ignites mid-flight, a spark she's planted through Vince's network. A white passenger, a stocky man in a gray sweatshirt seated 3 rows back, rises abruptly, his face flushed with a mix of liquor and planted outrage. He'd gotten a nudge from Vince, a whispered, "That guy stole my wallet," during a bathroom break, and now he stumbles toward Isaiah, his voice booming through the cabin. "Hey you, where's my cash, huh? I saw you digging in my bag." Heads snap up, phones flickering to life, the accusation a thunderclap in the quiet. Isaiah turns, his brow furrowing, his voice steady but firm. "I haven't touched anything. Sit down." The man lurches closer, his breath sour with bourbon, and swings a wild fist, clipping Isaiah's shoulder with a dull thud. The cabin explodes, a brawl erupting as Isaiah catches the man's arm, twisting it back with a preacher's strength honed from years of lifting burdens heavier than this. Passengers shout, some leaping up, others shrinking back, the young attendant dropping her tray with a clatter of plastic cups. "Stop it!" she yells, her voice cracking, but the man struggles, his free hand clawing at Isaiah's shirt, tearing the stained fabric further. Isaiah shoves him off, pinning him against the seat with a firm grip, his breath steady despite the chaos. "Enough," he says, his tone a command that stills the man, his eyes wide with sudden fear. The cabin quiets, gasps fading to murmurs, phone still rolling as Isaiah releases him, stepping back, his chest heaving but his dignity intact. The attendant rushes over, her hands trembling as she checks the man, who slumps into his seat, muttering curses under his breath. "You okay, sir?" she asks Isaiah, her eyes wide with concern, and he nods, brushing off his torn shirt with a weary sigh. "I'm fine." He's drunk. She glances at the man, then at the overhead bin. Her instincts sharp, but missing the hidden trap. Passengers settle, some nodding at Isaiah with grudging respect, others whispering about troublemakers. The divide from the first flight echoing here. Vince watches from the back, his smirk hidden, texting Claire with a quick tap. Fight's done. He's still standing. Cops next. Isaiah sinks back into his seat, the adrenaline fading, his shoulder throbbing where the fist had landed. He thinks he's won again, outlasted another attack with grace and grit. The man's false claim diffused by his calm restraint. The attendant brings him a new water bottle, her smile tight but genuine, and he sips. The coolness a brief balm against the night's relentless grind. The plane drones on, Seattle drawing closer, and he lets himself believe he's weathered the storm, that Lena's feds will handle the rest when they land. His hands fold in his lap, his eyes drifting shut, a flicker of peace settling over him like a thin blanket. But the trap springs at landing, the wheels kissing the Seattle tarmac with a smooth thud as police lights flash beyond the gate. The plane taxis in, the cabin stirring with the rustle of bags and belts, and Isaiah rises, stretching his cramped legs, ready to step off into freedom. Then the door hisses open, and 3 cops storm aboard, their boots pounding the carpet, badges glinting under the cabin lights. The lead officer, a burly man with a crew cut and a scowl, points at Isaiah, his voice a bark. "You, hands up, you're under arrest." Isaiah freezes, his heart sinking, his hands rising slow and steady as the cuffs snap on, cold steel biting his wrists again. Passengers gasp, phones flashing, the attendant shouting, "Wait, he didn't do anything." But the cops ignore her, yanking him toward the jet bridge. Vince slips off the plane, his jacket zipped tight, texting Claire as he blends into the crowd. He's cuffed, drugs worked. Her reply hits like a victory bell. He's done. Claire's grin, miles away in Denver, twists with savage glee, her fingers clutching her phone as she imagines Isaiah's fall. The drug's a masterstroke. She sure will bury him. Isaiah stumbles down the jet bridge, the cuffs tight, the cop's grip bruising, his mind racing as the airport blurs past. He'd dodged the brawl, proven his innocence, but this is bigger. A frame-up he didn't see coming. His brief triumph shatters. The water bottle a distant memory as the precinct looms ahead, a new battlefield he's not prepared for. The Seattle precinct looms under a sodium-lit haze, its concrete walls cold and unyielding, as Father Isaiah Monroe is shoved through the double doors, his wrists chafed raw by cuffs that dig deeper with every step. His torn clerical shirt hangs, loose juice stains and scuffle marks a map of the night's battles. His broad frame stooped slightly from exhaustion but unbowed. The cop's boots echo on the tiled floor, a harsh rhythm that drowns out the hum of late-night traffic beyond the glass. The lead officer, a burly man with a crew cut and a sneer, grips Isaiah's arm, his fingers bruising as he barks, "Move it, preacher! You're in deep now." Isaiah's dark eyes flicker with a quiet defiance, his voice steady despite the ache in his bones. "You've got the wrong man," he says, but the officer snorts, shoving him into a holding cell with a clang that reverberates like a gunshot. Inside, the cell stinks of sweat and bleach, its gray walls scratched with graffiti, a single bulb buzzing overhead. Isaiah sinks onto the metal bench, his back screaming from hours of confinement, the planted drugs a silent accusation he can't yet disprove. The precinct buzzes beyond the bars, officers shuffling papers, radios crackling with static, and he knows Claire Hensley's frame-up has landed him here. The bag of powder in his satchel a lie with teeth sharp enough to shred his life. He bows, his head, lips moving in a silent prayer, his faith a flickering flame against the storm. But the weight of this trap presses hard, a vice he can't shake. Footsteps approach, and 2 new cops, both white, stride in, their faces twisted with contempt, batons tapping against their palms like a promise. The taller one, a lanky man with a shaved head and a scar across his cheek, leans against the bars, his voice a low growl. "Resisting arrest, huh? That's what the report says." Isaiah lifts his head, his gaze steady, cutting through the lie. I didn't resist. Check the flight footage. The shorter cop, stocky with a buzz cut, laughs, a harsh bark that bounces off the walls. Don't need footage. Your trouble, plain and simple. They unlock the cell, stepping in with a swagger that reeks of power, and before Isaiah can stand, the tall one swings his baton, cracking it across his ribs with a sickening thud. Pain explodes, a white-hot flare that steals his breath, and he doubles over, hands clutching his side as the stocky one grabs his collar, slamming him against the wall. Blows rain down, fists and batons finding his back, his arms, his legs. Each strike a brutal echo of Claire's venom now wielded by the system she's weaponized. Isaiah grunts, his body curling against the assault, but he doesn't beg, doesn't break, his voice a ragged whisper through clenched teeth. You're wrong. The tall cop snarls. Shut it, and lands a final blow to his shoulder, the crack of bone against metal ringing in the cell. They step back panting, their knuckles red, and the stocky one spits on the floor, a wet splat near Isaiah's feet. That's for fighting back, he says, though Isaiah hadn't lifted a hand. They lock the cell and stride out, leaving him crumpled, blood trickling from a split lip, his shirt torn wider, his body a canvas of bruises. Minutes stretch into an hour, the cell's cold seeping into his bones, the pain a throbbing pulse he fights to ignore. Then the precinct doors burst open, a whirlwind of heels and fury as Lena Monroe storms in, her charcoal pantsuit sharp, her black hair pulled tight, her brown eyes blazing with a wrath that could level cities. Behind her, a news crew scrambles, cameras rolling, lights flashing, their microphones catching her voice as she shouts, "Where's my brother?" The desk sergeant, a balding man with a paunch, stammers, but Lena cuts him off, slamming a legal writ onto the counter. Unlawful detention, planted evidence, assault, you name it. Release him now or I'll have this place shut down by dawn. The cops scramble, the sergeant barking orders, and minutes later, Isaiah's cell unlocks, Lena rushing in, her hands, gentle as she helps him stand, his weight leaning on her as pain flares with every move. "I've got you," she whispers, her voice cracking, and he nods, his split lip curling into a faint smile despite the agony. The news crew films, their lenses capturing his bruises, his torn shirt, the cuffs dangling loose as an officer uncuffs him with a scowl. Lena's lawyer, Tara Reed, strides in, tablet in hand, barking at the precinct chief. "You've got 10 minutes to explain this or the feds take over." The chief, a gray-haired man with a pinched face, blanches, waving his men back, but the damage is done. Isaiah staggers out, Lena's arm around him, the cameras flashing as reporters shout questions. "Father Monroe, what happened? Who's behind this?" He doesn't answer, his breath shallow, his focus on staying upright. Lena glares at the lens, her voice steel. "You'll see soon enough." They reach her SUV, a black beast parked curbside, and she eases him in, the door slamming shut as the news crew swarms, their lights a harsh glare against the night. Inside, Isaiah slumps, texting Lena from his cracked phone, his fingers trembling. "They're burying me." Her reply is fierce, typed one-handed as she starts the engine. "We bury them." But Claire's not finished. In Denver, she huddles in a dim hotel room, her navy blazer discarded, her bun a frayed mess as she watches the news on a muted TV, Isaiah's battered face splashed across the screen. Her smirk fades, replaced by a snarl, and she grabs her laptop, uploading a doctored video from the flight, the brawl twisted to show Isaiah as the aggressor, his restraint edited into rage. She posts it to X, her fingers flying, captions screaming, "Violent thug attacks passenger." Within minutes it spreads, hashtags igniting, social media erupting with venom branding him a criminal, a fraud, a danger. Claire leans back, her breath steadying, her smirk returning, a predator tasting blood. She thinks this seals it, thinks the public hate will crush him where the cuffs couldn't. Isaiah sees it too, Lena showing him the screen as they drive. The video's lies a gut punch worse than the batons. His bruises throb, his lip stings, but this cuts deeper. A smear on his name, his faith, his life. "They won't stop," he mutters, his voice hoarse, and Lena grips the wheel, her knuckles whitening. "They don't know who they're fighting. she says, her tone a vow, a blade ready to carve through the chaos. He nods, leaning back, the city lights blurring past, his spirit battered but unbroken. Claire's strike has landed, a brutal blow amplified by the system's weight, and he feels the edge of despair creeping in, a shadow he fights with every breath. But Lena's beside him, a storm of her own, and he clings to that, a lifeline, in the dark. Hey folks, what's your verdict? Comment number 1 if you think the cops crossed a line beating Isaiah over a lie. Drop a like if you're raging at Claire's twisted video tearing his name apart. Subscribe if you're locked in to see this preacher rise from the ashes. Ever seen someone framed and still stand tall like Isaiah? Share it below. Now brace yourself. Can Lena's fury turn this tide, or will Claire's hate sink them both? Stay tuned to find out. The Seattle night presses against the tinted windows of Lena Monroe's black SUV, its engine a low growl as she weaves through downtown streets, her knuckles white on the steering wheel. Father Isaiah Monroe slumps in the passenger seat, his torn clerical shirt clinging to his bruised body, blood crusting on his split lip. His dark eyes hollow with exhaustion but glinting with a fire that refuses to die. The precinct's brutality throbs in his ribs, each breath a sharp stab. But Claire Hensley's doctored video cuts deeper, its lies branding him a thug across social media, a wound no bandage can heal. Lena's phone buzzes on the dash, a stream of alerts as the hashtag #Tanner violent priest trends, venomous comments piling up like ash. She glances at Isaiah, her voice a razor. They've gone too far. We hit back now. Isaiah nods, slow and deliberate, his fingers trembling as he pulls out his cracked phone, the screen spiderwebbed but functional. Get the footage out, he rasps, his throat raw and Lena's lips tighten, a general marshalling her forces. She pulls into a parking garage, the concrete echoing as she dials Tara Reid, her lawyer's voice crackling through the speaker. National TV tonight, Lena snaps, her tone brooking no argument. Isaiah's clips, Mia's affidavit, all of it, flood the airwaves. Tara's reply is swift, a soldier falling in line. On it. Give me 2 hours. Lena hangs up, her brown eyes blazing as she turns to Isaiah. Rest here, I'll handle the rest. 2 hours later, the city hums with late-night energy as Lena storms Pinnacle Airline's headquarters, a sleek tower of glass and steel, its lobby deserted save for a security guard who nods her through. She strides to the media room, Tara waiting. With a laptop and a USB drive, the news crew from the precinct already set up, their lights harsh against the polished walls. Isaiah's footage plays on a massive screen, raw and unedited. Claire's slurs and shoves caught in stark clarity. Mia's water handoff a quiet act of defiance. Tara hands over Mia's affidavit, her signature bold on the page, detailing Claire's aggression, Tom's complicity, Vince's sabotage. Lena steps to the mic, her charcoal pantsuit sharp, her voice a thunderclap. This is the truth. Pinnacle fires Claire Hensley, effective immediately. Justice starts here. The broadcast airs live on every major network, cutting through the night like a blade. Isaiah's bruised face a silent testament beside Lena's fierce resolve. Social media shifts, the tide turning as viewers flood X with the maverick justice for Isaiah. The doctored video's lies unraveling under the weight of evidence. Pinnacle's HR department scrambles. A press release confirming Claire's termination hitting the wires, her 12-year career torched in a single stroke. Isaiah watches from the SUV, parked outside a diner, the TV inside flickering with Lena's voice, a faint smile tugging at his bloodied lip. He thinks it's a win, thinks the truth has clawed its way free, a crack of light in the dark. But Claire's not out. In Denver, she sits in her hotel room, the TV muted as Lena's broadcast plays, her navy blazer crumpled on the bed, her blonde hair a tangled mess spilling over her shoulders. Her laptop glows, the firing notice a slap she refuses to take lying down. Her phone buzzes, a text from a burner number, a contact from a hate group she'd tapped months ago for emergencies. We're in, it reads, and her smirk returns. A cruel twist as she dials, her voice a hiss. Torch his church. Make it loud. She hangs up, her fingers drumming the table, her mind a furnace of vengeance. Isaiah's counterattack stings, but she's ready to burn his world to ash, a strike he won't see coming. Miles away, in a quiet Seattle suburb, Isaiah's church stands under a moonlit sky, its white steeple a beacon against the night, its wooden steps creaking faintly in the breeze. A van rolls up, its headlights off, disgorging 5 figures in hoods, their hands clutching gas cans and lighters, their boots silent on the grass. They move fast, splashing fuel across the steps, the walls, the stained glass windows glinting, with saints and sinners. A match flares, then another, and flames leap up, a roaring orange beast devouring the wood, smoke billowing into the sky. Sirens wail in the distance. Too late, as the group scatters, their laughter a jagged echo swallowed by the crackle of fire. Isaiah's phone buzzes, jerking him awake in the SUV, his bruised ribs screaming as he shifts. It's a local news alert. Live footage of his church ablaze, the steeple collapsing in a shower of sparks, the windows shattering into a rainbow of glass. His breath catches, a guttural sound tearing from his throat, and he stumbles out, the diner's neon sign casting a sickly glow on his face. Lena screeches up in the SUV, her eyes wide as she leaps out, grabbing his arm. "Isaiah, no!" But he's already moving, hailing a cab, his voice hoarse. "Take me there." The driver nods, peeling out, the city blurring past as Isaiah's heart hammers, the flames a personal wound he can't fathom. He arrives as firefighters battle the blaze, water arcing through the night, steam hissing where it meets fire. A crowd gathers, parishioners weeping, their faces lit by the inferno, and Isaiah pushes through, his torn shirt catching on a splintered fence. A child's cry pierces the chaos, a 6-year-old girl trapped in the basement, her voice faint beneath the roar. Isaiah doesn't hesitate, ducking under a beam, the heat searing his skin as he plunges into the smoke. He finds her coughing, her small frame curled in a corner, and scoops her up, his bruises screaming as he staggers back out, collapsing on the grass as medics rush in. The crowd cheers, phones flashing. "Hero priest saves girl." Trending, instantly, a fleeting halo amid the ash. But Claire's not done. As Isaiah kneels, the child safe in paramedics' arms, a cop approaches, his face grim, holding a gas can with Isaiah's fingerprints planted by her group in the chaos. "You're under arrest," he says, cuffs snapping on again, the metal cold against his scorched wrists. The crowd gasps, murmurs turning to shouts, but the cop yanks him up, the hero's glow snuffed out by a frame-up so swift it steals his breath. Lena arrives, her SUV skidding to a halt, her voice a roar. "This is insanity!" But the cop shoves Isaiah into a cruiser, the door slamming shut, the church's embers glowing behind him like a funeral pyre. Claire watches from Denver, the news flipping to Isaiah's arrest, her smirk widening, a predator's grin. She texts Vince, her fingers steady. "Church burned. He's pinned. We've got him." His reply is quick, a smug nod. "Beautiful." She leans back, the TV flickering, thinking she's won, thinking the fire and the frame have broken him at last. Isaiah sits in the cruiser, his head bowed, the cuffs tight, the child's cries echoing in his ears, despair clawing at his edges. But his eyes lift, meeting Lena's through the glass, her fury a lifeline he clings to, a vow they'll fight on, even as the flames of Claire's hate consume everything he's built. The Seattle jail cell is a frigid box, its concrete walls slick with damp, the air thick with the tang of rust and despair. Father Isaiah Monroe sits on a thin cot, his torn clerical shirt a ragged shroud over his bruised body, his wrists raw, from cuffs that have become a second skin. The church fire still burns in his mind, its flames licking at his memory. The child's rescue a fleeting light snuffed out by the gas can planted with his fingerprints. His ribs ache with every breath, the precincts beating a dull throb beneath the fresher sting of betrayal. Claire Hensley's frame up, a noose tightening around his neck. He bows his head, hands clasped, lips moving in a whispered prayer, his faith a fraying thread against the weight of this latest blow. Outside, the city hums with morning gray, rain streaking the precinct windows as Lena Monroe storms through the halls, her charcoal pantsuit soaked, her black hair plastered too, her scalp, her brown eyes blazing with a fury that could melt steel. She's flanked by Tara Reid, her lawyer, whose auburn hair is pulled tight, her green eyes sharp as she clutches a briefcase stuffed with evidence. They barge into the booking room, Lena slamming a stack of papers onto the desk, her voice a Whip. Sham trial, planted evidence, you're holding an innocent man. The desk sergeant, a weary man with a gray mustache, flinches, but the precinct chief, a pinched-faced man with slicked-back hair, steps forward, his tone oily. He's got a hearing today. Let the judge sort it. The courtroom is a cramped chamber, its wooden benches packed with reporters and parishioners, their murmurs a low buzz under fluorescent lights. Isaiah stands in the dock, his cuffs glinting, his torn shirt a stark contrast to the judge's black robe, a grizzled man with a hawkish nose and a scowl. The prosecutor, a wiry woman with a pinched mouth, lays out the case, her voice shrill as she waves the gas can. Arson, caught red-handed. A danger to the community. Tara leaps up, her briefcase snapping open, spilling documents. Fabricated! We've got flight footage, Mia Torres's affidavit. This is a setup. The judge bangs his gavel, his eyes narrowing, but a flicker of bias glints there. A man who's already made up his mind. Lena sits in the front row, her hands clenched, watching as Tara fights, pulling out Vince's text to Claire, intercepted by Pinnacle's IT team. A thread of sabotage from the drug plant to the church fire. Conspiracy, Tara shouts, her voice echoing, and the courtroom stirs. Reporters scribbling, parishioners nodding, their faith in Isaiah a quiet roar. But Claire's hate group has struck deeper. A juror in a gray suit, a balding man with a nervous tick, bribed with cash slipped under his door last night. He leans to his neighbor, whispering lies, swaying the panel as the judge suppresses Tara's evidence with a curt, inadmissible, no chain of custody. Lena's jaw drops, her voice a hiss. He's rigged. Isaiah meets her gaze, his eyes steady but shadowed, despair creeping in like fog. The jury deliberates, hours stretching as Isaiah waits in a holding room, its walls a peeling green, the air stale with cigarette smoke from years past. He kneels, praying, his bruised hands pressed together, asking for strength, for clarity, for a miracle. Lena paces outside, her heels clicking, her phone buzzing with news alerts as Costa Justice for Isaiah battles Tashar's violent priest online, the truth drowning in noise. Tara joins her, her face grim. That judge is dirty. We're losing him. Lena nods, her mind racing, a plan forming, but time slipping through her fingers like sand. The gavel bangs again, the courtroom hushing as the jury files in, the bribed juror avoiding Isaiah's gaze, his tick twitching faster. Not guilty, the foreman reads, and a cheer erupts, parishioners leaping up, reporters shouting, Lena's fist pumping the air. Isaiah exhales, his shoulders sagging, freedom a sudden rush that washes over him like rain. The cuffs click off, his wrists red but unbound, and he steps down, Tara clapping his back, Lena rushing to hug him, her arms tight around his battered frame. We did it, she whispers, her voice breaking, and he nods, his split lip curling, into a weary smile, thinking the nightmare's over. The fire's ashes a scar he can heal. But Claire's watching, her Denver hotel room a bunker of rage, the TV blaring the acquittal, her blonde hair a wild tangle, her navy blazer a heap on the floor, her smirks gone, replaced by a snarl, her fingers clawing at her phone as she dials her hate group contact, her voice a venomous rasp. He's out. Take the girl. She slams the phone down, her breath heaving, her mind a furnace of retribution. She'd lost the trial, lost her job, but she'll burn Isaiah's hope to the ground, a strike so personal it'll shatter him where the law couldn't. In Seattle, Mia Torres walks home from a diner shift, her ponytail swaying, her bruise faded, but her spirit unbroken, her affidavit a key that freed Isaiah. She's blocks from her apartment, rain slicking the pavement, when a van screeches up, its side door sliding open, 3 hooded figures lunging out. She screams, kicking, her nails raking one's arm, but they overpower her, a cloth over her, mouth silencing her as they drag her in, the door slamming shut. The van peels off, tires squealing, leaving her purse in a puddle, a silent cry swallowed by the storm. Isaiah's phone buzzes as he steps into Lena's SUV. The acquittals, glow fading as he reads Claire's text, sent from a burner, her words a dagger. You'll pay. Check on Mia. His heart stops, his bruised hands shaking as he dials Mia's number, the line ringing unanswered, a void opening beneath him. Lena grabs the phone, her eyes widening, her voice a shout. Where is she? They speed to Mia's street, finding her purse, the rain washing away clues. Isaiah's breath ragged as he clutches it, despair crashing over him like a wave. The church fire was a wound, but this is a gutting. Claire's hate striking. At his core, a blow he didn't see coming. Lena slams the dashboard, her fury a wildfire, her voice a vow. We'll find her. Isaiah nods, his eyes wet, his faith trembling. The acquittal a hollow victory now. Mia's absence a weight he can't bear. Claire's group has her, a pawn in their vendetta, and he knows this isn't the end, knows the breaking points, here, teetering on the edge of collapse. He grips the purse, his bruised fingers whitening, a silent prayer rising as the rain pounds the windshield, a storm he'll face with everything he's got left. The Seattle rain hammers down, a relentless curtain blurring the city lights as Father Isaiah Monroe sits in Lena's black SUV, his torn clerical shirt soaked through, his bruised hands clutching Mia Torres's abandoned purse, its leather slick with water. His ribs scream with every breath, the precincts beating and the church fire's scars a throbbing undercurrent. But Mia's abduction cuts deepest, Claire Hensley's text a jagged wound in his chest. You'll pay, she'd written, and now Mia's gone, a pawn in Claire's unhinged vendetta, her hate group a shadow stretching from Denver to strike at his heart. Lena grips the wheel, her brown eyes blazing, her voice a low growl. We're finding her, Isaiah. Tonight. He nods, his split lip trembling, his faith a flickering ember he clings to as they peel out, tires squealing on wet pavement. Lena's phone buzzes, Tara Reid's voice crackling through, sharp and urgent. Track the van's plates. Warehouse East Side, abandoned shipping district. Isaiah's head snaps up, his dark eyes narrowing, a preacher's resolve hardening into a soldier's focus. Go, he says, and Lena floors it, the SUV roaring through slick streets, wipers slashing at the downpour. The city blurs past, neon signs bleeding into the night, and Isaiah's mind races, piecing together Claire's moves, her hate a wildfire he's determined to extinguish. The warehouse looms ahead, a hulking shell of rusted steel and shattered windows, its loading bay gaping like a maw. The van parked crookedly outside, its side door ajar. Isaiah leaps out before the SUV stops, his boots splashing in puddles, rain plastering his hair to his scalp as he sprints toward the entrance, Lena shouting after him. Wait! But he doesn't, his bruised body protesting as he ducks inside, the air thick with mildew and gasoline, shadows dancing under flickering bulbs. Footsteps echo, and he follows, his breath ragged, until he rounds a corner and freezes. Mia's there, bound to a chair, her ponytail loose, her face bruised, her brown eyes wide with fear. Claire stands over her, her blonde hair a wild tangle, her navy blazer gone, a pistol trembling in her hand, its barrel glinting in the dim light. You! She shrieks, her voice unhinged, her eyes manic as she swings the gun toward Isaiah. You took everything. Isaiah steps forward, hands raised, his voice steady despite the pain ripping through him. Let her go, Claire. This isn't about her. Mia whimpers, her wrists raw from ropes, and Claire laughs, a jagged sound that bounces off the walls. It's about you. You don't belong, never did, and now you'll lose it all. Her finger tightens on the trigger, her rage a furnace, but Isaiah moves, lunging with a speed born of desperation, his bruised hands grabbing her wrist, twisting hard. The gun fires, a deafening crack, the bullet ricocheting off steel. Sparks, flying as they grapple, Claire clawing at him, her nails raking his cheek, drawing blood that mixes with the rain on his face. They stumble, crashing into crates, wood splintering under their weight, and Isaiah slams her arm against a beam, the pistol clattering to the floor. Claire screams, kicking at his shins, her fury wild but unfocused, and he shoves her back, pinning her against the wall, his breath heaving, his strength waning but unyielding. It's over, he gasps, his ribs a firestorm, and she spits in his face, her eyes blazing. Never! Then a shadow looms, Vince charging from the dark, his shaved head gleaming, a knife flashing as he drives it into Isaiah's side, a hot, searing pain that buckles his knees. Blood blooms, soaking his shirt, and he staggers, releasing Claire, who scrambles for the gun, her smirk returning. A predator tasting victory. Isaiah falls, clutching his side, the world tilting as blood pools beneath him, warm and sticky on the concrete. Vince looms, knife raised for another strike, but Lena bursts in, her SUV's headlights flooding the warehouse through a broken wall, her voice a roar. "Drop it!" She's armed, a pistol from her glove box steady in her hands, her stance a warrior's as she fires a warning shot, the crack splitting the air. Vince freezes, his knife clattering as he raises his hands, his smirk gone, fear flickering in his eyes. Claire spins, gun in hand, aiming at Lena. But Isaiah, bleeding and gasping, lunges from the floor, tackling her legs, bringing her down with a thud, the pistol skittering away. Lena rushes to Mia, cutting her ropes with a pocket knife, her hands, swift as Mia sobs, freed but trembling, her bruise stark against her pale skin. Isaiah crawls, blood trailing, and grabs the gun, his fingers slick as he points it at Claire, his voice a ragged whisper. "Stay down." She writhes, cursing. Her hate a live wire, but he holds firm, his vision blurring. The pain a tidal wave he fights to outlast. Sirens wail, growing louder, red and blue lights piercing the rain, and cops flood in, their boots pounding, shouting orders as they cuff Vince, his protests swallowed by the chaos. Claire twists, her eyes wild, and screams at the cops, her voice a desperate plea. "He attacked us. He's the criminal." She points at Isaiah, sprawled and bleeding, Mia clinging to Lena. The scene a tableau of violence she spins into a lie. The lead cop, a wiry man with a buzz cut, hesitates, his hand on his holster. But Lena steps forward, her pistol lowered, her voice steel. "Check the footage, her texts, everything. She's done." The cop nods, uncertain, as paramedics rush in, their kits clanking, kneeling beside Isaiah, staunching his wound with gauze that soaks red instantly, his breath shallow but steady. Then the FBI arrives, suits cutting through the rain, badges flashing as an agent. A tall woman with cropped hair strides in, her voice clipped. "Claire Hensley, Vince Carter, you're under arrest. Hate crimes, conspiracy, kidnapping." She holds up a tablet, Claire's burner texts glowing, her ties to the hate group exposed, a Web Pinnacle's IT team unraveled hours ago. Claire's face crumples, her smirk vanishing, her screams rising as they cuff her, dragging her out, her heels scraping the concrete, her threats a fading echo. "I'll get you. You're nothing." Vince stumbles behind, silent now, his knife a damning witness on the floor. Isaiah lies back, medics working, oxygen flooding his lungs as they lift him onto a stretcher, his blood-streaked face calm despite the pain. Lena kneels beside him, her hand gripping his, her eyes wet but fierce. "You're safe," she whispers, and he nods, his split lip curling faintly, Mia safe beside her. A victory carved from chaos. The warehouse empties, cops securing the scene, FBI agents barking orders, Claire's last lie dissolving under the weight of truth. Isaiah's carried out, rain washing his blood away, the night swallowing Claire's screams as the stretcher rolls, a warrior felled but unbroken. The Seattle hospital room glows with a sterile white light, its walls a stark contrast to the chaos of the warehouse. The rain now a faint patter against the window. Father Isaiah Monroe lies in a bed, his torn clerical shirt replaced by a thin gown, tube snaking from his arm to a beeping monitor, his side bandaged where Vince's knife had plunged. Bruises bloom across his chest, his split lip scabbed over, but his dark eyes flicker with a quiet strength, his breath steady as painkillers, dull the ache. Lena Monroe sits beside him, her charcoal pantsuit wrinkled, her black hair loose, her brown eyes softened with relief as she grips his hand, her thumb tracing his knuckles. Mia Torres stands near the door, her bruise fading, her ponytail neat again, her small frame steady after the nightmare's end. The TV hums on a wall mount, a news anchor's voice crisp as she details Claire Hensley's arrest, her hate group ties exposed, Vince cuffed beside her, their mugshots a grim victory lap. Pinnacle Airlines reinstates Mia Torres with back pay, the anchor adds, and Mia smiles faintly, a nod to Lena, who'd pushed the board hard. And a donation to rebuild Father Monroe's church, the report continues. Images flashing of the charred steeple, now a symbol of resilience. Isaiah exhales, his shoulders easing, the weight of the fight lifting as justice settles like a bomb. Lena squeezes his hand, her voice low. "We won, Isaiah. They're gone." He nods, his split lip twitching, a preacher's peace returning after a war he hadn't chosen. Days pass, the hospital a cocoon of recovery, nurses bustling with trays and charts, the city beyond healing with him. On the third morning, Isaiah's strong enough to sit up, his gown crinkling as he swings his legs over the bed's edge. Lena, helping him stand, her arm a steady anchor. "Time to get you home," she says, and he smiles. Faint but real, the first in weeks. They plan his release, a quiet return to a parish eager to rebuild, but he pauses, a thought nagging. "I need to see her," he says, and Lena frowns, her brow creasing. "Claire?" He nods, firm. "To forgive her." The jail visit is stark, a gray room with a glass partition, Claire slumped on the other side, her blonde hair lank, her eyes hollow, her orange jumpsuit a far cry from her navy blazer. Isaiah sits, his bandaged side aching, his voice soft but clear through the phone. "I forgive you, Claire. Hate won't win." She stares, her smirk gone, her lips parting, but no sound coming, a stunned silence that stretches long. He stands, leaning on a cane, and nods, a preacher's grace offered where none was earned, then turns, Lena guiding him out, her eyes wet with pride. Claire's gaze follows, blank, a crack in her armor he's left behind. They reach the parking lot, rain gone, the sky a bruised purple as dusk falls, the air crisp with renewal. Isaiah breathes deep, freedom a tangible thing, but a guard jogs up, his face tense, slipping him a folded note. "Found this in her cell," he mutters, and Isaiah unfolds it, his fingers stiffening. "Vince escaped. Watch your back," it reads, scrawled in jagged ink, a chill slicing through his relief. Lena grabs it, her jaw tightening, her voice a hiss. "He's out?" Isaiah nods, slow, the peace shattering, a new shadow creeping in where victory had stood. The TV in the hospital lobby flickers as they pass, a breaking news banner cutting through the calm. "Pinnacle Airline CEO under investigation," the anchor says, and a photo flashes their estranged uncle, Marcus Monroe, his silver hair slicked back, his suit pristine, a man who'd cut ties decades ago. Alleged ties to Hensley's actions. Uncovered, the report adds, emails surfacing. Marcus's orders to handle dissent a thread to Claire's hate. Isaiah stops, his cane tapping the floor, his eyes narrowing, a betrayal deeper than the knife. Lena's breath catches, her fury reigniting, her voice steel. He knew. Isaiah turns, rain streaking the glass behind him, his bruised hands clenching, his vow a whisper. This isn't over. The camera pans to the news, Marcus's face a ghost from their past, Claire's pawn a piece in a bigger game, and Vince's escape a dagger still loose. The fight's not done, the reversal a gut punch, evil lingering where grace had tried to root. Flight attendant denies a black priest a glass of water, not knowing his family owns the airline, is a gripping tale of resilience against systemic racism and personal vendettas. Father Isaiah Monroe's journey reveals the brutal reality of prejudice, where a simple request for water spirals into a cascade of injustice. Denial, sabotage, violence, and false accusations. The first lesson is the power of perseverance. Isaiah's unwavering faith and calm defiance turn every attack into a step toward truth, proving that strength lies in enduring the storm. Second, the story exposes how racism festers in systems, cops, courts, and corporations, amplifying individual hate into collective harm. Yet it also shows that evidence and allies can crack those walls. Lena's fierce support and Mia's courage highlight the third lesson. Solidarity can shift the tide, turning victims into victors. Claire's downfall teaches that unchecked bigotry boomerangs, destroying the perpetrator when truth prevails. Finally, the shocking twist with Marcus Monroe underscores that justice is a marathon, not a sprint. Evil adapts, and the fight persists beyond one victory. This story isn't just drama, it's a mirror to our world, urging us to confront bias head on. Isaiah's forgiveness of Claire offers a radical choice. Break the cycle of hate with grace, even when it's undeserved. So, what's your takeaway? Have you seen prejudice twist a simple moment into chaos? Comment below with your thoughts. Hit like if Isaiah's grit inspires you. Subscribe for more tales of courage, and share to spark this conversation. Thanks for joining us on this wild ride. May you find strength to face your own storms and wisdom to build a fairer tomorrow.